Welcome back. Welcome back to Graduate Wealth Series. This we have created specifically for graduates. To this end, we want to say congratulations to all the graduates. Congratulations. My name is Temi Falano and I am your host for today. You're going to be hearing from me and from other people that are going to be speaking in this series. So please take notes. Make sure you take one or two things from everyone that you're going to be hearing from today. And if you have questions, put them in the chat, DM me, text me, reach out, email me, and we will help you to get going. All right, so let's dive in. Today, we're going to be looking at house hacking and other first-time home buyer strategies. Last week, when we talked about the why, we looked at the choice of buying an investment property versus buying a car or anything that would depreciate in value over time. And we could see where making that choice of buying investments from shares to Bitcoin, different ways of investing would add value to you, especially when you start young. And today we're going to be diving into the how. How do you make this happen? How do you build wealth from this young age, right after college, right? But before we go into all of this, I want you to take a quick poll. Have you checked your credit score this week? So type 1 in the chat if you have. Type 2 if you haven't checked your credit score. Now let's go on. Today we're going to be starting from house hacking. And that is where you buy a property or an investment and you live in one part of it and you lease out the other part. It could be, different type of investment that are available. And we're going to look into that shortly. So why do you want to do this? You do this because it helps you to build wealth. It helps you to cut down on your expenses. It helps you to pay off your mortgage while someone else is making that payment for you. It helps you to, have a cheap monthly payment when it comes to living expenses. And you will see this as we go on. This is a cheap way of building wealth from the get-go. A lot of graduates use this because it's easy for you to get that loan right after college, going to a lender to ask for the loan that affords you to be the owner occupant of a property. And so it's easy to finance that. Lenders, if you can present that to a lender, that is very smart. So you need at least 5 professionals to get this going, to make this happen. You need a lender, first of all, to make sure that you get your financing in place and your pre-qualification. You need an attorney. A lease agreement should not just be signed without knowing the nitty-gritty of what should go into it and what shouldn't because of fair housing laws. You need a CPA so that you avoid any tax issues or any tax implications. You need an insurance agent for proper coverage on your property. And of course, you need me, your realtor. And if you are not in Tennessee or Texas, where I can be your realtor, then I can help you connect with the realtor in the city or area that will best serve you. Now, let's go forward and look at the next slide, which is types of house hacking. What are those types of house hacking there are that can be helpful to you? There is multifamily, where you can buy duplex, which is 2 units. You can buy 3 units, you can buy 4 units, and in all of this you can live in one and rent out. Imagine living in one and leasing out 2 units or 3 units. 3 people will be paying off your mortgage, or 2 or 1 person while you're living in it almost free, or at least for a fraction of what your mates are paying if they do not know about this house hacking. Now, if you don't buy the duplex, if you don't buy the multifamily, you can buy a single family home. This still affords you to have maybe 2 extra rooms, 3 extra rooms, where you live in one room and you lease out the other rooms. In this case, though, you don't have your privacy, unlike the multifamily properties, where in most cases the tenants have their own bathroom, kitchen, their own door, in and out, doors to exit and have gain entry into the house. So completely there is better privacy if you have multifamily. But if you don't, if you buy a single family, then you're going to be sharing common areas with the tenants that you have in the house, right? If you do an ADU, which is the third one, an accessory dwelling unit, then you probably have a basement that has its own separate door entry, or its own kitchen and its own bathroom, or you have a house that has a guest suite, maybe like a mother-in-law suite, at the back, on the side, somewhere in the house, where everything is in it. A bathroom, the kitchen is part of the house, and then you live in one and you rent out the other. In this case, you also have your privacy, because you don't share those common areas with your tenant. Either way, this is still a good way to cut down your expenses right after college. House hacking maths. Let's look at the numbers. Let's look at what this means. So hypothetically, we find a $400,000 house in Dallas area. This will help you, say, let's say you get a duplex, right? This will help you cut down on your monthly expense, because you're leasing out one and then you're living in the other. But because that person is paying part of your mortgage, you only pay a fraction of that mortgage every month to offset your bills, right? But the sweet part of this is that you're getting a unique kind of loan from the lender, and that loan affords you to pay even faster because someone else is paying with you. And then you can do FHA, which is 3.5. You can choose to do conventional, which is between 5 to 10%. You can also use some other loan types that are available. The lender will help you with those options or that information on what you can do. But look at the numbers. Look at how this is ridiculous, because you are paying, at least you're saving rather $375 to $775 monthly, when you're compared with your compared to your colleagues, or other graduates that do not know about this hack. And as you're doing that, you're building equity, like I mentioned earlier. And so in a year, you're saving at least 4,500 to 9,300 every year. And you're not just saving, you're building equity gradually. At least annually, you have $10,000 on that property. Imagine what that would look like down the line, in another 10 years, because you started early in your 20s. Now, first time home buyer programs. What are those programs that are available for you to explore as a first time home buyer right out of college? You have different types. We have 4 here. You have FHA loan, which is best for most graduates, because there you can use a lower credit score, you can put down a lower down payment, and some other things that affords you to enjoy, like you're renting, but then you're renting from yourself. You can do either a duplex or a triplex, or even a single family home. Whatever you choose to do, FHA loan affords you to do that, and for less. Now let's look at VA loan. for those that are in military, that join the military while in college, or join the military right after, you have zero down payment. But you have to check though with VA if you qualify for the loan. But the lender typically requires 620 in this case, and you don't have mortgage insurance. You don't have the private mortgage insurance that other people have with the other loans. And it works for duplex, it works for these properties that affords you to lease out one part of the house or other part of the house and live in another. The third one here is conventional loan. Of course, this is a bit higher in terms of the credit score, in terms of how much you put down. But then in this case, similar to the VA loan, you don't have to, you can avoid the private mortgage insurance if you put down a certain percentage of the loan that affords you to cut off the private mortgage insurance. The third one is the USDA loan. This is typically for rural areas, and again, it has the low credit score. And also, instead of the PMI, you have guarantee fee in this case. And so you can explore any kind of loan to enjoy this phase of your life where someone else is helping you pay your mortgage right after college. Now, what's the action plan? How do you do this? How do we go about this? First, we find your property. We define the criteria around what you want to find. What are we looking for? What area are you interested in? Where is work? How close do you want to be to work? We research together. We explore properties together. We look at least 5 to 10 properties in this case. Second phase is making an offer. Once we have found that property, we've narrowed it down, lender has given us the money to buy the house, then we make an offer with your pre-approval letter, and we say, here, this is how much we are pre-approved for. We like your house, we want to buy your house. We look at the comparables to make that offer. What are houses in that area selling for? We do a comparative, a comparative market analysis. It's called the CMA. I send that to you. So you look at the prices in the neighborhood. How much was a house similar to the one you want to buy? How much was it sold for recently? Even between now and the last 6 months to 1 year, it gives you an idea of how to make an offer. How much should I offer? And don't be distracted by how attracted you are to that house. Let your numbers guide you. Stick to the numbers. Determine the offer price, and then decide on the contingency. Do I want inspection contingency? Do I want financing contingency? Do I want appraisal contingencies? All these contingencies are different, and you can have them all if you want to. And then we set a timeline. This is when I want to move to the house. This is when I want to close, and then we submit the offer to the seller's agent or the seller, depending if it's a for sale by owner. Now, due diligence period. Once we have done that, it takes us to the third phase, which is where we do the due diligence. Now, we look at it and say, all right, what does this house look like? Do I need to do inspection? And yes, I always recommend an inspection, even when it's a brand new house. Fourth phase is the closing process. This is the last part. In this case, you should be under contract and closing, within 2 to 3 months. Some people do it within 30 days, but during this time, your lender will process your loan application. The title company will check your property title. Your insurance will look at everything. They want to coordinate with an insurance, they look at it and give you an insurance. You complete your inspection, we do negotiation, we finalize on what is to be fixed and given to you, and then we do your final work and get ready for closing. At this point, boom, we're ready for closing, and we close. Once you close, you get your keys, and then that's it. Because at closing, It's even possible that you get money back depending on how much you paid down, and the numbers. It's possible that the title give you money back. If they don't give you money back, you might have need to there might be some kind of outstanding that you give to title. Either way, closing is here and you're closing. So you get your keys, they transfer you transfer utilities to your name on that day, and you're getting ready for moving in. Matter of fact, this is when I recommend you can make your purchases. If you were thinking of buying a car, now you can buy the car. If you were thinking of buying furniture, something to decorate your house, now you can go out and buy them. Okay, but before I forget, to go for your closing, you need to bring a few things with you. You need to bring your government ID, government issued ID. You need to, matter of fact, I'll recommend you bring two government issued IDs. Bring your driver's license, bring another ID that you have on you, preferably if you have your passport. If you have your, just find another ID that you can come with, to just in case they need two IDs. You don't want to drive back home. You also need proof of homeowners insurance to present on at your closing. You need your cashier's check or wiring for your funds if needed, if you haven't done that already. And then any other document that title needs, you need to bring along. And so once we close, whoo, that's it. You get your keys, and now you want to get ready to bring in those tenants. You are now a landlord, right? So I recommend that you consult an attorney. I'm saying this again. So you do not write a lease agreement that could put you in trouble. You want to avoid fair housing laws. You want to look at the requirement. Let a real estate attorney guide you to do that. You also want to reach out to a property management company. If you don't want to do it yourself, they will take a fraction of how much the tenant pays you. You can negotiate with the property management company, so they reduce that for you. But if you want to save money, like really, really save money, well, then I would recommend that you do it yourself. Just work with your attorney. If you're doing it yourself, this time you need attorney even more. So reach out and make sure that you make the house ready for the people that are going to be moving in. Make sure it's clean and good to go, turnkey state. Now, once you're done with that, what do you think? You start making your money, right? So how can you get this? How can we make this happen? There are ways to get this done. You can do this in 30 days. You can do this in 60. You can do this in 90 days or more, but just get started. Just take action. Don't slow down, because the first 30 days, you can use that as a preparation phase. If you want to slowly do it, prepare, reach out to the realtor, reach out to me. Let me help you with lenders that I can recommend. Use your bank, use your credit union if you have any. Make sure you have at least a few lenders that you're communicating with. If you don't know lenders to reach out to, I can recommend some to you. Reach out to a realtor if you don't have if you're not in Tennessee or in Texas and you want to buy in another state. If you're listening to this, you can reach out to me. I can help you dig into the area you want to buy to find the realtor that can help you the most. Or you can just go out there and find you a realtor. Don't do this by yourself. Trust me, you will gain more when you use a realtor. And then you get your pre-approval letter. Once all of this is in place, everything is in place, you get a pre-approval letter from your lender, and you're good to go out to search. Because with that, you know where your search is. You know how much house you can buy. You don't just go looking at big houses when you can afford them, or looking at something less when maybe you can buy a triplex or a duplex and get somebody pay for your rent. So day 60 and 90, you're ready to close on your house. You do your walkthrough, you do everything necessary, and then you close. It's that easy. But if you can work with your agent, you get there. Robert Kiyosaki said, rich people acquire assets. The poor and the middle class acquire liabilities that they think are assets. Which one do you want to be? Everything I have said today, disclaimer, they are just for educational purposes. Please consult qualified professionals before making any financial or real estate decisions. Until next time, thank you for listening.
Years just using this simple plan. Here's what we're going to cover: why most young adults get stuck in the debt trap, how real estate actually builds wealth over time, the equity advancer mortgage, which is a mortgage you can use as a equity creating engine, and you can take that equity and put it into your first rental property. We're going to discuss the DSCR loan, which is going to be the loan you use to purchase your first rental property. And at the end, I'm going to give you a simple step-by-step blueprint so you can do this. Here's the money reality for young adults. The average new car payment is $748 a month. The average used car payment is $530 a month. The average credit card balance is $6,700. And the average credit card interest rate is 20 to 23%. It will take 30 years to pay the credit card off if you make only the minimum payments. And over that time, you'll pay $13,000 in interest. Credit cards, high interest rate on yesterday's purchases. Lifestyle inflation. What that means is the more you make, the more you spend. And the end result for doing all of these things above is you're going to be left with no money. Here's the cost of normal choices. A $750 a month car payment over 5 years equals $45,000 paid out. If you invested that same money at 7%, you would have $53,000 after the 5 years, and you could use that to go towards your first rental property. Small choices in your 20s make for big outcomes in your 30s and 40s. Here are the 4 great pillars of real estate. Number 1, real estate usually appreciates. The value rises over time. Number 2, the principal goes down. Each time you make a monthly payment, the amount you owe gets smaller. 3 is cash flow. Rent income can exceed the amount you're paying on that rental mortgage. And 4 are tax benefits. There are multiple tax benefits that you can take advantage of for rental properties. Historically, U.S. home values have grown 4 to 6% year over year. So if you have a $300,000 home at a 5% annual growth rate, it'll be worth over $1 million in 30 years. You don't have to time the market. You just have to get in the market. The earlier you start, the more compounding works for you. It gives you a lot of leverage, real estate does, because real estate lets you control a large asset with a small amount of money. Here's what I mean. If you have $15,000 to put down, you can control a $300,000 property. If that property increases in value 5%, you've doubled your cash on paper in the first year. Leverage amplifies growth when used responsibly. Renting versus owning in your 20s. This is a big pitfall that a lot of young people fall into. So if you rent a home for $1,800 a month, you get zero equity and you have zero ownership and you pay $1,800 a month. If you own it, you pay $1,800 a month. You build equity and appreciation and tax benefits. 10 years of rent at $1,800 a month is $216,000 you've paid out to the landlord. You have paid your landlord's mortgage for 10 years at the tune of $216,000 out of your pocket and into his. 10 years of ownership is far different. You get equity plus rising property value. Your first home should be used as an investment. It's a tool. Think of your first home as an asset, not just a place to live. Use it to build equity quickly, not just have a nicer space. The goal is to turn early equity into down payment for your first rental property. This is where the equity advancer strategy comes in. What is an equity advancer? It's a first lien HELOC, home equity line of credit, that replaces a traditional mortgage. It's linked to a checking account used for everyday income and expenses. It sweeps your deposits nightly, so it reduces the balance of your principal on that mortgage every single day. Interest is calculated daily on the reduced balance. Here's how the equity advancer sweep works. You deposit your paycheck into your equity account. Deposits immediately reduce your loan balance, so when your interest is swept that day, the balance on your loan is lower, so you pay less interest. Bills and expenses are paid like any other checking account through the month, and your average daily balance stays lower, less interest paid. The equity advancer versus a traditional mortgage is like this. With a traditional mortgage, you get a fixed payment, interest computed on a scheduled balance. You pay the same amount each month for 30 years. The equity advancer has flexible payments. You can pay interest only, you can pay nothing, you can pay more. You choose how much you want to pay. Your income works for you every single day. You have the potential to pay your loan off in 6 to 12 years as opposed to 30. The equity advancer versus the traditional mortgage. Let's look at a few numbers. Okay, 5 years, 30 years. The total principal is the same, $550,000. The total interest paid is $93,000 with the equity advancer, or $734,000 using the traditional mortgage. That's about a $600,000 savings. Total payments are $55,000 or $360,000. Your total expenses at the end, $643,000 for the equity advancer loan and $1.2 million for the traditional mortgage. Here's a really good visual. You're going to pay this mortgage down in about 6 years, 7 years, my bad, as opposed to the traditional mortgage, it takes you 30 years to pay it down. It's a big difference. Here's how we're going to turn your equity into investment capital. As your balance drops and value rises, equity grows. You can draw on that equity advancer line to access that equity. You can use a portion of that equity as a down payment on your first rental property. You want to keep enough equity to stay liquid. Here's how fast you can build equity. In 12 months, you're going to build $114,000 in equity. We're going to use this to fund our first investment property. We're going to pull part of that out and put into our first investment property using a DSCR loan. What is a DSCR loan? It's a debt service coverage ratio, which means the loan qualifies based on the property's rental income and not your job, not your income, nothing but your credit score, and if the rent covers the mortgage. That's all that matters. It's great for new investors, self-employed, or people building multiple rentals. Basically, we're focused on whether the rent can cover the payment. That's it. Pretty simple. The DSCR is simple math. Basically, we're going to take the rent and the payment. We're going to divide the rent by the payment. That gives us a ratio of 1.25. All this means is that if the rent covers the payment on the mortgage, then you're going to qualify. If it's even, that's a 1.0 ratio. If it's a little more, then you get a 1.25 ratio. You get what I mean. But basically, the rent just has to cover the mortgage. That's it. For your first rental property, the purchase price is $250,000. The down payment is $50,000, which is 20%, which is what we pulled from the equity advancer loan we talked about earlier. Your rent is $2,000 a month. Your payment is $1,600 a month. So you're going to have a positive cash flow of $300 to $400 a month. At age 23, you can buy your first home with the equity advancer. At age 26, you use equity to buy your first rental with that DSCR loan. At age 30, you can repeat it every 2 to 4 years. And some people can do it more quickly just based on their financial position. Age 40s and 50s, you're going to have multiple properties and an incredible net worth just by using this simple formula. Here's a potential net worth snapshot. Example, at age 45, you're going to own 4 to 6 properties worth $1.5 to $2 million. Your equity position in those is going to be $600,000 to $1 million. And your rental income from all those properties is funding your lifestyle for future investments. Starting at age 22 versus age 32. Starting earlier gives you an extra decade of compounding, which is more time to pay down loans and ride out market cycles. Easier to add properties gradually over time. Waiting off means playing catch up later. So the sooner you start, the better. But I don't want you to think that 32 is too late to start. It's not. But starting earlier is always better. Here's what you want to do. Your step-by-step blueprint. First and foremost, avoid big car payments and excessive credit card debt. These will kill you. They're not good. You're throwing money away on things that decrease in value. They will make you broke. You want to save aggressively for your first home and get in using a good rate. We'll use the equity advancer to get you in your first home and buy your first house. We're going to run your income through that account and control your spending. We're going to build equity over, 1 to 5 years. It says 3 to 5. I've seen people do it in 1 year. You're going to draw that equity and buy your first DSCR rental, buy your first investment property, Repeat the cycle every few years as your finances grow. Here are the biggest mistakes to avoid: buying a car that eats your investing money, carrying high interest credit card debt long term, buying too much house for your first property, or waiting for the perfect time instead of just starting small. Here's how I can help you. First, I can help you understand if the equity advancer is a good fit for you and your first home. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, this is not a good thing for you. If you're financially responsible and save a little money each month, this is a great option for you to build incredible wealth in a short period of time. We'll run the numbers on DSCR scenarios to see if it makes sense. I'll guide you through the financing as you build your portfolio, and I'll answer your questions as you design your own wealth blueprint. You don't have to be rich to start. Starting is how you become wealthy. Use your 20s and 30s to build your assets, not just payments. We can see what your personal blueprint looks like. Call me anytime. I'm here to answer your questions.
We're here to bless other people. However, we are not here to make strong recommendation, financial, concrete or anything. We're only here to open people's eyes to see what opportunities are out there, see what alternative decisions people, if you make alternative decision, have alternative options and you follow it, what you can possibly get. So thank you so much for having me, and I want to say congratulations to the graduate. It's exciting times, but one thing that I will start with is, by the grace of God, whatever phase or stage you are in right now, is think about it as a seed planting phase of your life. You're about to graduate. You are given opportunity to either go get a bigger boy job. That's not where you're supposed to be for the rest of your life. That's not where you're supposed to be until you retire. You have to take that seed, plant that seed. You have to cultivate that seed. You have to nourish it, pour water, do all of those things so that you can harvest what you need in the next phase or stage of your life. My personal principles of money, or you know, steps of money, or idea or principle of money, is you learn how to make money as a human. You learn how to manage money. That's the next step. And the next step is learn how to multiply money before you start enjoying whatever you get. So every paycheck you get as a new graduate, as a matter of fact, if you're not a new graduate and you're just tuning in, think about it. I will make money. They will pay me money. How do I manage that money? What does it need to go? Pay my tithes, pay my utility bills, or any bill that I have before you start, splurging. Then the next thing is, how do I multiply? Multiplication also goes back to investment. What goes into retirement? Then the last step is, how do I spend it? Unfortunately, most of us, including me, we always think about the first and the last in most cases. How prepared you are would determine how long you would last in some of these cycles that you mentioned. So if you lost it, you have money in your savings, you have money in some investments, or by the way, buy a house without having mortgage. That's another thing we can talk about, but we'll park that alone for sometimes in the future. But let's say you have a rental on a paid off home and they're paying you monthly, and you have another place that you're staying. That's income right there that's covering you when life happens. It's not a time to go buy a Mercedes. I bought a BMW. I drove it for less than 6 months. I was like, yeah, this is not for me. This is not for me. Why? Because I'm not a type that I want to drive that kind of thing. I deserve it. I want to drive them, but I'm not the type. I'm driving. I just like, oh, I need to roll my windows down. It's starting to get into my head. That's not me. So if you figure out who you are, and think about the principles, steps to principles of money that I just mentioned, marry all of those things into your lifestyle, right? You know, make all of this money. You can buy a brand, you can buy a BMW, you can buy a Mercedes. I'm a big fan of BMW. I love Beamers. But one, I can't buy them on car notes because that's me eating out of my future retirement. Not to knock anybody with car notes, yo. I had car notes and I did all of the calculations in my spreadsheet. I paid $10 driving that car out of the lot when I bought it on day one. By the time I finished paying it, I had 6 years to pay, but I paid it in less than 2 years, 18 months approximately. I had paid extra $4,000 on that thing. So all of these little things, they add up pretty fast. Nobody's knocking you if you already have it. Think about the alternative options. You know, if you haven't made a lot of money, you have to think about going, but you are not making money. So we need to fix that. How to fix that? If you need to upskill, if you need to learn a new skill to get more money, do it. Because you have to constantly think about investing. I didn't invest in 2020. I didn't invest in 2021, 22. I can feel it. You have to understand compound interest. What you put in today and it's growing, it puts you in a better position than putting a bigger chunk or the same amount or maybe times two of that amount 4 or 5 years from now. We need to utilize our time well. We have to maximize the time. Get an extra job. If you have a house right now, and you're a single person, get into house hacking. If you have extra room, get people in that room. Extra $300, 400, some inconvenience, it will save the day. When I was doing Airbnb, I did Airbnb for a while, but I had 2 bedroom. I listed those 2 bedroom. Whenever one is not occupied, I'm staying in that room. Whenever both rooms are occupied, the dining area was blocked out. That's my private space. And I would go to the gym and then shower. I'm good. For 1 year, I did not have a job, by the way. I didn't have a job. It was Airbnb that kept me going. And I was sending money back home and trying to be a responsible man. So everyone's got reasons. Everybody's got excuse why something will not work. And I understand that. But when you think about the concept of time and season, we got to do something. Going to black tax, I encourage it. I think people should do it because as a person of faith, I am blessed to be a blessing. I'm a channel of blessing. Think about a stream. A stream consistently flow, fresh new water. And that's God's intention for us. However, it has to be done with wisdom. Generosity without wisdom is stupidity. Don't take your bill money. You have water bill to pay, and that's your last money. And somebody called you from back home and they say, you know what? I need this. I need this. Can you help me out with this? And you send that to them. That's not good. That's not wise. God doesn't do that. Think about the principle of the money that I just mentioned. When you make that money, think about the essential things, things that you have to do. Then the rest, you can do black tax. However, don't just live like that too. Your black tax has to be in a budget. I'm struggling with a tiny amount that somebody wanted me to help in supporting the program this month, and but I kept looking at my budget in the last 3 days. The day one of December, I already ran out of budget for what I'm giving my charity. Like that's again is you are in the diaspora. God brought you here. The community, maybe community bought plane ticket for you, flight or whatever. Or they did not. Because you are in overseas and they have a way to contact you, there's some level of expectations that hey, you got to take care of us, and it's okay. I personally think it's okay, but we just have to do it with limitation. Before I decided I want to get married, I started acting and living like, okay, this is this is what's coming towards me. I'm not a parent yet, but if you come to my house right now, space for the kid. I have kid stuff, and this is something that I learned from somebody. I think it was probably during COVID or post COVID. You can never stop preparing for your next phase. And I understand some people be like, oh, what if it doesn't happen? But guess what? Christmas is always in December. You got to prepare for Christmas before it shows up. If you want to give gifts, if you're not, that's okay. But on Christmas Day, if you already have those gifts and you don't get to give it to the people you want to give it to, guess what? You're gonna give it to somebody. So preparation is extremely important. At what point do you start preparing for your next phase? Is right now. They said the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is right now. So be debt free. And also whatever principle you build or whatever habits that you form now is what you will carry into it. If you already solidify some habits, it's just It just become easier. If you're a responsible person before marriage and you get married, it's even easier, right? If you're an investor before you get married, my goodness, it's even easier. If the person is coming as with an investment set, even better. But if not, you can easily say, hey, you know what I did in 2020, 2025, this is where I'm at. We're married in 2026. This is where I would like to go. You're showing them results. So be overly prepared for your next phase. I would define wealth as being able to afford what you want with peace of mind. You're not running from one place to the other just because you want to, make certain, purchase. So peace is in that definition. So as you building wealth, think about it. A lot of people, are not at peace right now because they're still trying to take care of some things. The seed that they planted 10, 5, 15 years ago. So as you're building wealth, think about what can I do that will give me peace of mind in the future? What vehicle can I use to get to the future in terms of wealth? What are the avenues to get, to be wealthy? Of course, you have your regular IRAs and all of those things. You have real estate. You can even go beyond having one or two portfolio. You can partner with people that you vetted, and they are, they have good character. Those are the ways you can build peaceful wealth. A lot of people are building wealth now, but the outcome will not be peaceful. It's not a cause. It's just the fact that the seeds that they are sowing now, it's not good. It's not on a solid ground. I don't want to give examples. Some of the things that you should look out for is when you constantly take more than you can handle, when you're greedy, when you're chasing quote and unquote, I want to put $5 down and take a loan of, 90 million, and you don't have a job. You're building you're building a house of cards. So this is why we recommend be consistently improving your method and get out of debt. The Bible says in Proverbs, somewhere in Proverbs, I don't know the exact scriptures now, it says the borrower is a slave to the lender. When you read books like uh, The Richest Man in Babylon, there are several books that you can read. There's nothing wrong in you doing business, borrowing money or borrowing resources to do business, but with wisdom, so that you can harvest peace among your physical harvest in the future. As I wrap up, I know we're coming up with time. Think about wealth as whatever I will need to do now to be able to afford the life that I'm designing by the grace of God, to be able to afford that peacefully, to be able to, live a life of abundance, which is you have enough and you can give, and you can do all of that peacefully.
Whenever you're post grad, you're looking for your job, somewhere to live, maybe even roommates. You might be even moving to a new city, and everything's kind of changing. And it's also super fun at the same time because it's something new. Buying a home is probably one of the top things that I would say I would do, and I wish I could go back and do, just because it builds you so much equity from the beginning. We have multiple programs with CMG that can help you get in a house right away without having to have 20% down payment or anything like that you just might not have coming out of college, like a majority of people. One program is our Home Fund It program. It works a lot like GoFundMe. Really, it's crowdsourcing for down payment. So if you have any family and friends that are wanting to get you grad gifts, this is a opportunity for them to be able to help you with your down payment. You make your whole screen, or you make your own profile. You'll have a picture and you can kind of say where you graduated from, what your major is, what your future looks like, where you're going to work, or anything that you want to add on there. It's super cool, and you can actually share it. I'm pretty sure you get $20 if you share it to Facebook, $20 if you share it to Instagram within the first 24 hours, which is super cool. And CMG actually matches up to $2,000. So if you raise up to $2,000, then CMG will actually match that. So you would have $4,000 going towards your down payment, which is super cool and a huge chunk of that down payment. Super helpful. Another program is our rate rebound program. So if you do close with us, we actually can refinance you after 6 months and up to 5 years with all lender fees waived. So, say that you close right after post grad, you might not love your rates, or maybe your credit score gets better and the market's looking a lot better. We can always refinance you with all those lender fees waived, which a lot of our clients take advantage of that program as well. One more program is our down payment assistance program. A ton of post grad clients use this program. We can cover up to 5%, so that can cover your down payment and also closing costs, which is super awesome. And sometimes, even whenever there's seller concessions, we can even buy down the rate a little bit, just because it's our in-house program. TSHAC is another down payment assistance program, and they can do grants as well, which is super helpful. So reach out to us today, and I would love to help you get in your house. People get really excited whenever they first start making like real money, in quotations, just as you have a career, it changes a little bit than having jobs in college and stuff. So it gets exciting and you do want to buy things. Buying a car is definitely helpful, but I would not go all out and put all of your money into a car whenever you can be putting that money into a house. And whenever you buy the house, maybe later on you can get that car that you really like. But I would definitely just, a house is much more stable and you can have equity in your house versus a car. And another thing that I would pay attention to as well is whenever you start your career, don't get a bunch of credit cards. I see it a lot, and it's totally fine if you manage them well. But your credit does matter a ton in the home buying industry, and it really does matter in other little spots in your life. So definitely pay attention to that and try to keep your credit in line as best as possible.
If a graduate comes with like a $40,000, how will that help them in buying a house with Kate, for example?
Yeah,
Give
so
us an
that could
idea.
actually, so an FHA loan, say you're putting 3.5% down and closing costs, that $40,000 can be your closing cost and your down payment. And that could help you move into your house. And your mortgage payment really just would depend on where your credit score is and what's the rates are that day, and also the purchase price of your house.
So if we look at it that the person wants to purchase a $350,000 house, something like that, and the rate at that day, say for today, is what, 6 point, what are we today?
Yeah, like 6.25 probably.
Okay, so let's say the rate is actually today's rate, and they want to buy a 350,000. How do they use that $40,000 in that scenario?
So your $40,000 would actually cover your down payment and your closing cost. And that would be enough to help you move into the house. And then from there, if you find a house, I can definitely calculate the exact amount that your monthly payment would be. So with FHA, which would be 3.5% down at a $400,000 purchase price, we'd be looking at a payment of $2,658.50. And that's not covering any HOA dues or insurance or taxes, because that just depends on the area. So that would be included as well. And the closing costs would probably come out to $25,000. So you would even have some leftover money to maybe put towards that car that you want, or just have it as backup cash reserves for your mortgage. That is for $400,000 FHA loan, so 3.5% down at a 6.5 interest rate.
So what if they want to do like a conventional loan and not FHA loan? Is there a difference?
Yeah, so conventional loan is really heavily based on your credit score and then also your down payment, how the pricing goes, because it's not a government loan. So that one kind of differs really from person to person. So FHA is really geared towards first-time home buyers. It's not only for first-time home buyers. People can purchase an FHA even though they've previously had an FHA loan. It's normally 3.5% down or 5% down, just depending on the buyer and how much money they want to put. Conventional loan is very heavily based on credit score and down payment. I actually was just working with this guy last week. He came to me and he was like, I just got this new job. He has been post grad for about 5 years, but he was like, I just got this job and he's making a lot more money than his previous job, which is his first entry level job out of college. And he was like, I really want to invest it in something. I'm done renting. My money's going to this landlord and I'm not getting anything out of it. And I was like, absolutely. So he sent me Zillow houses and I kind of figured out his max purchase price for everything. And he actually ended up contracting yesterday, which is super exciting because he's been saving up. So that's awesome for.
So considering this economy, how things are right now for a lot of people, would you still encourage a young person to buy a home first, like right now?
Yes, absolutely. Honestly, even before May, I've talked to a ton of people, and whenever investors are out, you really know it's the time to buy because they're going to buy at the best bargain that they can. And right now, you really can get a lot of seller concessions back rather than whenever rates drop and people start raising the purchase prices of their house. You don't want to get caught up all in that, especially like whenever it was COVID. We're seeing a lot of people wanting to move, but their equity in their house has gone down so much that they don't have equity in their house because they paid $200,000 above the real purchase price. So those people are kind of in a stuck limbo situation. So I would definitely say right now is the time to buy. Don't sit on the sidelines. And I would definitely start looking, getting all of your stuff together, get your finances in line, and kind of know where you're looking and what you're looking for. So whenever it comes up, you'll know it's the time. Really, to get qualified, it comes about your debt to income ratio, which is probably the most important. FHA is the most lenient on debt to income ratios. Your credit score plays a factor as well. And then also, we like to see a 2-year job history. And job history can include school. We would just ask you for your school transcripts to cover those 2 years, especially if you're just graduating or maybe you do have a job lined up. Then you can send us your job offer letter that says your salary or hourly rate, and we'll be able to use that, which is super awesome. And maybe you found a house and maybe it doesn't work out. That's fine. We really never say, no, you can't buy this house or you don't qualify. We give you a path to qualify. Or maybe you need a little bit of credit work or you have no credit history. Then we can definitely help you build that. We've been with some people for almost over a year now, and we've had 2 this year that started building their credit up and improving it and boosting it to get to the limit. And both of them just bought a house this past year, which has been super cool to see.
So the credit limit, what's the worst case scenario for anybody?
So FHA does take 580, but again, you have to have a super strong file. The rest of it, I have seen it go through before. Typically, though, we like it to be above 620 range. That's normally where it'll take a majority of the time, but 680 plus will get you the best pricing, and even higher than that, especially on FHA, will get you super great rate pricing. Some people, whenever they're looking for a house, they go out and buy a car, or say we pre-approve them, they're under contract, going through underwriting, we do the hard credit pool, and a new car comes up. Do not buy anything crazy, no furniture, no washer and dryer, don't take out any new loans, no cars, because all of that does affect your debt to income ratio. And if that goes out of line, then that can cost you moving into your house on time. So that is definitely the biggest one. And also the debt to income ratio messes with your credit score. So say you go out and do a car loan, they do a hard credit pull on you as well. So then that might drop your score and you might not get the best rate pricing anymore. Or maybe it brings you below the limit and now your file is not going through the underwriting system anymore. Those are the top 2 factors that I see a ton. And then also sometimes people will take job gaps or stop their job or switch jobs and they have like a little bit of a gap and they don't tell us. I'm always an advocate for just being upfront. If you lost your job, I always just say, do you have something else lined up? If so, just send me an offer letter and we'll figure it out, rather than us going through underwriting and it comes 5 days before closing and you tell me that you don't have pay stubs anymore because you lost your job. Being upfront is probably the biggest thing, as well as don't go buy anything crazy or any cars out of the blue once you get pre-approved.
Well, guys, just super excited to be here with everybody today, and I have so much respect for Temi and her team. And I know she really believes in financial literacy for people. She really believes in educating people on multiple streams of income, on teaching people, how to go from trading time for money to really helping you have money work for you. And I really just love Temi's heart, in serving others and helping others and mentoring people and just helping people grow. So I'm just honored to get a chance to spend a few minutes with you today. My name is Jeff Street. I live in Highland Village, Texas, which is northwest Dallas. And I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I haven't had a job since I was 19 years old. I'm 46 years old today. So 27 years being self-employed and owning a business. And when we talk about entrepreneurship, so much of entrepreneurship is your mindset. And I'm such a big believer that your attitude determines your altitude in anything in life. See, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. So I just want to applaud you for being with us here today because it tells me that you're looking to grow. See, the first step to success is making a decision that you want it. Somebody told me years ago, he said, Jeff, success is a choice. How bad do you want it? And I was somebody that from a really young age just wanted to grow, wanted to develop. And they said, look, you got to find a mentor. They said, seek mentorship. See, when you can find a mentor in anything you do in life, whether it's real estate, whether it's entrepreneurship of any kind, whether it's as an investor, if you can find somebody that's already got where you want to go, they can help you navigate the landmines out there that take you from the starting point to the finish line in anything that you want to do. So for me, I was always looking for mentorship. And I met a mentor of mine when I was 19 years old. He was actually somebody that had a lot of success in real estate. And he told me, he said, Jeff, leaders are readers. He said, you will be the same person 5 years from now, except for the books you read, the seminars you attend, and the people you hang around with. See, there's something called the law of association. The people you hang around with, that's who you become. And one of the first books that he had me read was a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And I'm sure some of you guys have read that book. And Robert's second book is a book called The Cash Flow Quadrant. And this was a book that was really life-changing for me because it had me look at money in a different way. So I want to share a few things with you here today that were really helpful for me when I first became an entrepreneur years and years and years ago. Well, so guys, this was something that, again, when I heard this, it just made me think different. The cash flow quadrant, there's the employees, the self-employed, the business owners, and the investors. So these four different quadrants. An employee is somebody that works for somebody else that trades time for money. They have no financial leverage. They only make money when they're working. And they report to somebody else. Self-employed people are somebody that maybe own their own business, but it's more like they own their own job. And so they have to invest their own time to make money. Now, 95% of the people out there, they fall into one of these two categories on the left-hand side of the quadrant. 5% of the population is in the right-hand side of the quadrant, where you're a business owner or you're an investor. And when it comes to being a business owner, what the book talked about is it's not just owning the business, it's having a system that works for you. So how do you have a system that works for you, that whether you're actually working or not, you have a business that's still making you money? And then I, as an investor, and I know many of you came here today to learn about being an investor where you can have money working for you, where you can truly create passive income, where your income is not dependent on your physical presence, But again, instead of trading time for money, you can have money work for you. Warren Buffett said it best. He said, until you find a way to make money while you sleep, you'll work until you die. And unfortunately, most people are on the work until they die program. So at 19 years old, I quit my last job that I ever had. Now, I'm not telling you to do that. I wasn't married. I didn't own a home at the time. I didn't have a lot of risk by becoming a full-time entrepreneur. For me, I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I knew that I wanted to build something of my own. How do you get from the left side to the right side? He said the two biggest reasons why most people never go from the left-hand side of the quadrant to the right-hand side of the quadrant. Number one is fear of failure. That's why having mentorship is so important, because mentorship can eliminate that fear factor for people. And the second piece is lack of capital. A lot of people want to have their own business. They want to build something for themselves, but maybe they don't have that money to invest. But what I found is if you can get yourself into that business owner quadrant and you can create reoccurring revenue, you can now use that money to invest in other things like real estate or other assets. My wife and I, we're senior vice presidents with a network marketing company by the name of ACN. And he talks about how one of the reasons why he recommends that new entrepreneurs get involved in network marketing is it's very low cost of barrier of entry to get started. Typically, it's under $500 for somebody to get started and own a business in the network marketing world. So the company I represent, I just want to share a few minutes with you about it because there's a lot of synergy between our company and the real estate world. I met Tammy because I went and I did an event for her real estate company about leadership and personal development. ACN has been in business for 33 years. They do business all throughout the United States and Canada. They specialize in customer acquisition. They have millions of customers and they've done billions of dollars in sales. My mentor told me 20 years ago, he said, Jeff, find something you like, make it your hobby, find something the masses can't live without, and make it your business. And that's why I was so excited about this concept, because I knew whether I did this or not, I was going to pay these bills for the rest of my life. Now, the reason ACN can do what they do is they use a network marketing channel of distribution. What does that mean? They eliminate the advertising costs. They use independent business owners just like myself to have our own website or own online store where we can create more options for consumers and a business opportunity for people just like us. Now, remember what I talked about was one of the top reasons why most people never go into business ownership is lack of capital. And in network marketing, again, the common person can afford to get started because the barrier of entry is typically below $500 for somebody to get started in a business like this. Now with ACN, it's actually only $299 one time for somebody to get started. And there's a $25 a month business support fee. See, the hardest part of winning a race is getting off the starting line. But it's so much easier to get off the starting line when you've got somebody that's got their arm around you saying, let's go do this together. And so with what I shared with you today, if this is something that you're like, wow, this is something I'm interested in, I could see how this could work for me, for my wife and I and our team, we have an amazing system of mentorship. And I know that that's something that Timmy has seen firsthand. She knows multiple people that are part of her real estate group that are also involved with us and have talked to her about our system and our training and support. So, one of the greatest lessons I ever learned in my life is that one source of income is too close to no sources of income. And so I love that from a very young age that I was really taught the concept of multiple streams of income. At the end of the day, too many people are just trading time for money. And I'm just very blessed at a very young age that I learned about being an entrepreneur. And another thing that my mentor taught me is he said, listen, in anything you do in life, you got to have a strong reason why you're doing it. See, if you don't have a strong reason, you'll only do anything for a season. But if your why is big enough, the how-to is irrelevant. Because at the end of the day, life's going to go out and hit you in the mouth. Challenges are going to happen. Obstacles are going to happen. So whatever you do in life, whether it's a business like this, network marketing, whether it's real estate investing, whether it's starting your own company of any kind, there's going to be more lonely days as an entrepreneur than maybe there ever would be as an employee. And so that's why having that strong reason why is so significant. And I think we'll agree AI, unfortunately, is going to take over many jobs of many of Americans. So what are things that you can do that you can make yourself AI proof? Well, one is obviously, being in the trade space. One is being a real estate investor, having, properties, making creating value for other people. Another one is, again, network marketing, what like I've been talking about today. So what is something that you can do where whatever it is that you're doing, you're not going to see technology overtake it. And so again, finding a good mentor, finding somebody that can stretch you, finding somebody that can help you grow, and having that strong reason why, and having the work ethic and the desire. How do you have that burning white hot desire that's going to allow you to go out and fight through all the emotional roller coasters of life? I can't teach you that. That's got to be something that's there within. But I believe you being here today just shows me that you're somebody that has that desire to go out and do more. Remember, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So go out and be different. Go out and stretch yourself. Go out and become more, because when you become more, you can attract more, and you can be that light for other people.
Wow. I hope you got something from the videos you watched. I hope you learned one or two things. Oh well, that's it. That's your call to action. Start small, but start now. Dream big. Go out there and choose. Choose wisely. Don't settle for less. Start saving now. A bit of $50 here, a bit of $100 there. Put them in your savings account and watch compound interest do magic. Go to seminars, read books. 15 minutes a day will rewire your mind from being an employee to being an investor. Use your young years wisely. These aren't flashy steps, but people have proven that these steps are helpful to make you millionaire in the future. Live free and come back and bless someone else too. If you have questions, let me know. If you want to share something, a story in another year or two, please let me know. DM me, text me. My phone number is 945-213-2393. Call me, text me, email me, WhatsApp me. Until next time, happy house hunting.